Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here. So first and foremost, this is a beginner's guide to Warlocks. Just a couple of things. First off, I got some triumphs to claim, I guess, apparently. Oh, okay. So, obviously I'm an emblem collector, right? In case you want to know where this emblem is from, this emblem is actually no longer obtainable. It was from Savathun's. No, it was from one of the Mercury strikes back when that was a planet. And something I forgot to mention as well. Strikes. Yeah, it's a garden world, which was from Curse of Osiris. Um, the emblem that I had on previously was an Escalation Protocol emblem. I don't really know where I would find it at. As I can see, I kind of have a decent amount of emblems. It wouldn't be. I think it's Underworld because technically it would have been Mars. Yeah, there. That's the Escalation Protocol one. There was another one that I didn't get, um, but yeah, this is the one that I had because I needed to do the Sleeper Simulant quest. Back when exotic quests were very long and a little tedious. So yeah, of course here we are here with Warlocks. It's time to. First off, I will be showing you how to do damage. And first off, I'm not participating in Guardian games and any other character. Um, but Warlocks, you guys start with Void. I'll be saying what exotics are almost necessary for free-to-play players, and a decent amount of stuff. And let's do keep in mind, I am missing all of these, but I have played with a lot of Warlock buds of mine, so I do know what a lot of these do and what is used and what's not really used. Also, something I forgot to mention, I don't actually... Here's what we're doing here. So, I would suggest breaking this habit, especially for Guardian games. Like, I'm trying to break this habit. But, land in the hangar, in the annex, not the courtyard, because it's loading everybody's vault in the courtyard, and it's way faster to launch into the annex. Because it's not loading, like, it's not trying to shove everyone in one space. Now, so obviously for Titan, I kind of use off-meta exotics, right? No one really uses backup plans in PvE, right? Other than that, for the most part, I stick to metas. Even for Hunter, if y'all look at that guide, I do use some off-meta options, but I mean, like, not really. But Warlocks. Warlocks, there is some very, very off-meta stuff that I use that no one else uses. So, of course, I'll be explaining those stuff, and there's some meta Warlock exotics that I just don't use. And there's one in particular that I don't necessarily recommend using for most circumstances. So now that we've loaded into the annex, we can go ahead and launch into the courtyard. There's, oh, that's for the strike, but oh well.
Let's get started.
I don't really need to get up to the 10%.
When I lost Carlos and Maria, there was no wonder.
Alright, but we are going to go to Ikora Ray here. Okay, I'm just usually annoyed when quests happen. By the way, again, Warlocks, if you want to see a Guardian Rises quest, let me know in the comments below, because that is something that I probably would like to know. That being said, if not, I mean, hey, new players, I'll be showing you some things, and more veteran players, you can kind of skip to the end-ish, because that's where I'll be showing you how to do damage. And this will be, kind of more so, optimal damage, because I gotta be honest, a lot of you Guardians don't know how to do damage. I've noticed this a lot with Titans especially. A lot of Titans just don't know how to do damage. And Warlocks, generally speaking, a lot of you guys know how to do damage, but only when you have a well. Only when you have a well do you know how to do damage. So, of course, here I'll be explaining some things. Now, for newer players, beginners, you guys start off with Void. A lot of the rules are going to apply here, as same with Titan. I'm going to guess you guys start with Feed the Void. However, you'll actually want Child of the Old Gods as your next aspect. I don't use Chaos Accelerant ever. I've never used Chaos Accelerant. Because generally speaking, you're wasting time not doing anything by charging your grenade. So most of the I really only use Feed the Void and Child of the Old Gods, and also Feed the Void did get massively buffed with Devour and stuff, and Child of the Old Gods does a whole lot. So the Feed the Void and Child of the Old Gods, they're basically necessary as a Warlock. Don't really use Chaos Accelerant. Now for fragments, I'll be getting into these specifically, but your basic rules of hey, if an aspect has plus 10 resil or plus 10 recovery, put that on. The void fragments, the fragments in general don't really change from character to character. The only one that is an outlier is Hunter for void. Now for grenades, I don't use any of these. I only use magnetic, vortex, and axion bolt. Axion bolt is a little bit dicey. You can definitely make it work, but you do need to have on the fragment that making a void abilities volatile. I really suggest magnetic grenade, but if you're using Nezarec in, you should be using Vortex. Generally speaking, as a Void Warlock, because Devour gives you ability regen and all of that, you really can use Vortex Grenade. And Vortex Grenade is stronger than Magnetic, and you don't need Volatile as much as Titans do. Now, for movement, you can use Blink. What? You can use Blink. However, the issue with this is I do not recommend using Blink for newer players. But hey, if you're a veteran, I mean, hey, go for it. I use Balanced Glide for the most part. I don't use the rest of these. And Warlock jumps, yours is very specific. You have very specific jumps. Now, Thrust to Void, you only have one melee option. And in class ability, you really will be on Healing Rift. There's only one situation where you don't really need to use Healing Rift, but I'll get to that later. And Nova Warp, I don't use. I barely use slow Nova Bomb either. For the most part, I use the fast one. You can tell the fast one. The fast one is Vortex. The slow one is Cataclysm. Fast, slow. Fast, slow. Now, of course, I'll be getting more. So, obviously, as you can see, literally almost everything is exactly the same as it was on my Titan. This one is kind of important as well, but I see there's that. Void is very simple. And it's the same rules are on Titan, so obviously you want to get anything that's plus 10, do not get minus 20. Just don't. But that's kind of it for Void. Now for Solar, I would suggest getting both supers, but get Well of Radiance first. Well of Radiance first, then after you've gotten everything else, you can get Daybreak. Which is what most players refer to as Dawnblade. As your aspects, you can kind of use any mixture of any of these, but definitely get Touch of Flame first, because when you're on Solar, you are either using Solar Grenade or Fusion Grenade. You aren't using the rest of these, for the most part. So Touch of Flame, really good, and Icarus Dash. These are the two that I use for extra mid-air movement. Heat Rises has synergy, but you have to consume your grenade charge. So that's the part that's a little bit rough. So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit of an issue. So I usually use Touch of Flame and Icarus Dash. Now, my Fragment rule is exactly the same as it always is, except you don't actually need the tracking one. It gives your super extra tracking. I'm double checking which one it is. Ember of Beams. You don't necessarily need Ember of Beams unless you're on Dawnblade. So yeah, fragments are exactly the same. I'm going through this one a little bit quicker. Now for Warlocks, you don't need Storm Grenade. The two you need are Fusion and Solar. You can kind of skip the rest of them, but the other grenade that I would suggest maybe having is Firebolt Grenade, because Warlocks do have a buff to Firebolt Grenades. Now for Arc, you Super, both of these are really good. Really, really, really good. I go with Chaos Reach though, if you're going for one first. And obviously you want Healing Rift. For your melee, either one is fine, but I actually use ball lightning and I don't use chain lightning at all. Because, you know, the ball one has a little bit more range to it. Arc Soul is basically required as an Arc Warlock. The only other one I use is this one, which is also basically required. I just wouldn't suggest using Lightning Surge. Just use Arc Soul and Electrostatic Mind. Now your fragments is almost the same as your other classes. But again, you want to basically the plus 10 Brazil and the bump to recovery is basic. Those two are required essentially. And I'll show you my Arc Warlock setup for damage, which I mostly suggest doing. Now, interestingly enough, Arc Warlocks don't have a thing that directly buffs grenades. So usually I do use that negative 10 discipline well, that gives grenades jolt, which Arc Bolt, Pulse, and Flashbang. Well, you don't need Flashbang. Flashbang is something that I don't necessarily suggest using on Warlock necessarily, but mostly Pulse Grenade, Arc Bolt Grenade, and you can use Storm Grenade. Those are the three, but more so Pulse and Arc. So that's it for Arc, and I'm going through this a lot faster than I did in my Titan video, but y'all can kind of reference the Titan video if you want more specific stuff. Now getting into new players, if you don't have Beyond Light, you won't be able to use Stasis. But if you do have Beyond Light, which is free on PlayStation, Bleak Watcher is required. Glacial Harvest is what you should be using. Don't use the rest of these. Frost Pulse, I'm not a huge fan of. You mess around. Feel free to mess around with it if you're experienced. But as a new player, you're putting yourself in too much danger for this. And Ice Flare Bolts is also pretty good. I just use this mostly because of Stasis Shards. And Stasis Shards, I have it bound to collecting Stasis Shards, at least I think. No, I don't. Okay, but there is a fragment here that collecting Stasis Shards recharges your melee. But Ice Flare Bolts also works pretty damn well as well. We'll just slap that on. Generally speaking, for this, you either want to use Duskfield or Cold Snap because of their cooldowns. Cold Snap if you have a exotic gauntlet called Osiomancy, but if you don't, use Duskfield grenades. Bleak Watcher is the only one where I would suggest using, like, basically holding down your grenade, because Ice Flare Bolts is so good and so much worth. That being said, you gotta make sure you're behind cover before you do it, or having Healing Rift down. Now for Strand.
You have questions?
I don't use Weavewalk, especially with it being only one fragment slot. It's not worth it. And I don't really use this either because, again, it consumes your grenade. So definitely have on Weaver's Call, as that's essentially required. And I would suggest having the Wanderer because you do spawn tangles, and you can suspend targets with this, and they do suspend when you destroy them. And that's extremely good. And this setup here is specifically for tangles, essentially.
Does not go
you are basically, well, not tangles, but you are the Threadling King, essentially. And obviously I use Balance, Glide, Arcane Needle, and obviously Healing Rift. Now getting into the exotic armor pieces that you should have as a new player Warlock. I'm first going to get into the more free-to-play exotics that I don't believe you need any purchase for, which is most Warlock armor pieces in general. Pretty much all the ones that I have, except for a few, that you should be able to access. So for helmets, Crown of Tempest, you should keep. This is really good for the roaming Arc Super, which is this one, Storm Trance. If you're using Storm Trance, you should be using Crown of Tempests, right? Now for again, Eye of Another World is a good general exotic. You can just slap this on if you want something generally speaking. Skull of Dire Kara is not that good. Don't use it. Nezarec Sin, if you're using Void, use this. This is pretty much the premier exotic for Void, especially if you are a free-to-play player. Nezarec Sin is extremely good. Honestly, in my opinion, it is one of the strongest exotics for ability regen. This tag is pretty good, but this is not necessarily a required one unless you're like in a GM or something like that. So the stag isn't necessarily, you can use it, but it's not super OP. Verity's Brow is a pretty solid exotic as well. This though requires your energy weapon to be your main
You
deal,
have
and when I mean energy
questions?
weapon, it is this weapon. This weapon in this slot, that's the weapon I'm talking about. Now, Verity's Brow was really good for stasis before before Osiomancy, but its Veritas Brow is still pretty damn good. Rest of these helmets don't matter. I will get into. So if you have expansions, right? Dawn Course is really good. You need Beyond Light. Fallen Sunstar, it's really good for Arc. You need Witch Queen
Still
4, and
more
Cenotaph
questions.
is really good for
Very
Well,
still.
and you need a Trace Rifle for it, which is really good with the Navigator, for example. You need Lightfall. Now for arms, controversial opinion. None of the exotic arms are particularly great. Even Sunbracers. There's too many other solar exotics that I would personally use over Sunbracers. There's a hidden one that I use that I kind of recommend using, but also there's that there's and more so for ad clearing and
I
that
can
sort of.
spare a
You can
minute or
use
two.
Sunbracers if you're using well and ad clearing. However, requiring melee kills,
Patience.
it can
We
be
must
sometimes a
be
pain to
sensible.
activate, especially if other people are using solar and just ad clearing monsters. So I don't use Sunbracers. I can't recommend using them either. Necrotic Grips. This one is interesting that I do recommend using. Oh, and you need Beyond Life for these. So Weapons of Sorrow. This have a hidden interaction with Weapons of Sorrow. For example, the ones that I know
You
of that for a
expect us to
fact are
trust you. You expect me
Necrochasm.
to do the same.
All right, everyone. Sorry about that. I had a literally in the middle of recording. I did have a phone call, so now that all that's situated, I could get back to the exotic armors and stuff. So, um, most arms are kind of useless. Weapons of Sorrow that are buffed with necrotic grips. The ones that I know of are Thorn, this hand cannon that might be tied behind Forsaken. I don't know if that's free to play or not. Somebody let me know in the comments. But I believe with the Horde is as well. And I believe Touch of Malice, Necrochasm, and Osteostriga are too. I think though those are the only weapons. Somebody in the comments let me know, but I think those are the only weapons of sorrow in the game. But I obviously have never really used. I've never used necrotic grips, so I don't think I even have it. Yeah, I don't even have them. Other than that, really the only arms that I would heavily suggest getting, going out of your way to get, are Ozymandias gloves. It is pretty much the required exotic for warlocks. You can only get these from lost sectors. So these, like Briarbinds, Pelados Wrathreavers, Osiomancy, Nothing Manacles, and Narcotic Grips, you can only get from legendary or master lost sectors. And it's the same with Dawn Course, Fallen Sunstar, Cenotaph, and same with these two as well, and these four. However, you can also get them if an event called Vex Strike Force is up. You can get them from here. As well, also if Terminal, and you can kind of see right here, if Terminal Overload and Vex Strike Incursion Zone are in the same spot, Vex cannot actually spawn in. So there's that. But outside of that, so for Warlike chess pieces, Starfire Protocol is pretty much a required exotic, especially if it's also free to play. Amazing one, even like for damage and everything. And then you have Phoenix Protocol, which is really good as well. I've seen some Warlocks use Mantle of Battle Harmony, so that's something to take a look at as well. This is from Forsaken. This one you need Beyond Light. For boots, Swarmers, for now, are really good for Strand. I'm not as massive of a fan of them, though. So, there's that. And these are from. That. Geomags are pretty much required for Chaos Reach. And I actually suggest Prometheus Burn now that they have been fixed. Now that they have been fixed, I personally do enjoy them, but So first off, while Daybreak is active, defeating targets create healing and empowering rift on their location. Solar Weapon Final Blows grant rift energy at an increased rate when standing in any rift. When standing in any rift and Rift energy is full, Final Blows consume class energy and create a healing and empowering rift at their target's location. This is more so to make Dawnblade a support type deal. Also, if you play really aggressively, these are good. Also, like toes. Look at them toes. Also, they have a fire aspect to them when your rift energy is full. So that's cool. So, however, I'll be showing y'all a couple of... Well, I'll show you one particular setup that I have used on Arc Warlock. Warlock that I think is entirely free to play. Hold on a second. Hold up. Wait a minute. I'm trying to locate the specific thing, but I don't see it in here. It's not a recent exotic. Why isn't it in here? Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's a free-to-play exotic, and I believe Geomags are... No, Geomags are Forsaken, so that's the only issue with it. But this is my Arc Warlock setup I use all of the time with Geomags. I usually use flashbangs, but y'all have to use them. Symmetry is extremely good. If you haven't used this setup with Symmetry, then use it. But this isn't really going to become a build video necessarily. But these are the quick things for the setup. Also, solo operatives really the only thing that just actually buffs. And I'll be showing you with Frieza, the ogre boss. Y'all aren't going to be seeing the entire dungeon, because I'm just planning on going through it myself. However, some other things to note. That is something that I do want to point out. This Sparrow is from King's Fall. You have to do Master Challenge King's Fall to get this Sparrow. Also, this ship here, it looks ugly as fuck, but it was from a mission back during Season of the Hunt that is unobtainable. Something about jumps I should mention. If you jump like you do on Titan, you're not going to get as much height. You know, just jumping then using your boost. You kind of have to double tap. So tap and hold to get that height. Tap and hold to get that height. You don't want to jump then delay, because you'll just get sent into the ground here. See, as you can see, I kind of go decline. So we got our Arc Soul. Also, Symmetry did not get a buff recently, did it? As you can see on the left-hand side, this thing has dynamic charge. This thing requires precision hits, so that's the only thing of note. At least for now. As you can see, the other thing, this is alternate fire mode, which is really good. And it does track. It does deal less damage. As you can see, it also leaves little pools behind. But even still, its revolution mode is pretty good. It just doesn't. It's not as insane as. Oh, I can just do this. And Geomags will be important for a damage rotation later. Alright, though. I will catch y'all again once I have reached the boss. So I can show y'all my damage stuff. Alright, everyone. So here we are at the boss now. So there's really multiple damage rotations. Go see my Titan video if you want to see Hothead used. But we are actually going to be doing something a little wee bit different. First and foremost, we will want to have on Pulse Grenade. Good old Pulse Grenade. And these are the aspects that these are the fragments I'm using. This one is kind of useless. So, or no. You want Spark of Magnitude here for your Pulse Grenade. These two, obviously. The rest of these are fine. Geomags is really what you want to be using. Now, this is where some stuff gets complicated. Now, I'm going to be using Supremacy up here. This is obviously not required, but this is just what I am using here. I'm probably not going to use it. Symmetry is better for, like, if you're going at longer to mid-range. However, that's not really what I'm doing for this encounter. So, I am not exactly going to be rocking with it all night. Actually, you know what? Just to show Anarchy some love, I'll be showing you an Anarchy arc rotation, and then I will be showing you a Dragon's Breath solar damage rotation. Void is just Nova Bomb, use heavy weapon. It's not particularly difficult to use. Alright, I'm going to be showing you this setup here, Supremacy, Posterity, and Anarchy. Obviously, I made sure my stats are tier 9s for both of these. The rest of these stats don't necessarily matter for Warlock as much, except Discipline and Strength. And my Strength matters a little bit more, matters more in my opinion than Discipline, just a wee bit. But the only reason why a lot of these stats aren't super high is because I don't generally have Artifice Armor. So, and again here, this is just temporarily. We actually want Void Damage Resist, because that's what this boss deals. Currently, I don't have a chest piece on this character that has 3 reserves on it, but again, you usually do. Oh my god, this is a massive ammo buff. Oh my god. This used to only carry 19 with multiple reserves on. Damn. Sheesh. Now, something to keep in mind for this is I usually shoot 3 Anarchy shots and not 2. Also, I will say, if you have Posterity, get Volt Shot Frenzy. That's the roll you want on it. Alright, I'll catch y'all back once we hit damage phase. Alright, we should be actually at enough to deal damage. First thing, multiple Anarchy shots. Geomax to extend that super. More Anarch Soul to keep us alive. Give us time to reload. Alright, that's kind of how it goes. So you fire not as many Anarchy shots as I did, but you fire you should be firing possibly 2. Also, that's pretty damn good damage for being solo. But you shoot 3 Anarchy shots, then Geomags to stack that damage. Then after you're done with Geomags, then you Pulse Nade, then Anarchy Stick, then switch to your special weapon, which in our case was the Supremacy. I didn't hit all my precisions at all. This is also something that can be done at a distance. So you spam your sniper or your special, then go back to Anarchy. Spam that. Normally, the weapon that you want in the slot has auto-loading or something like that. Or Reconstruction would be even better. But yeah, that's kind of how that rotation goes. Now, the other damage rotation I will show you is Solar. At least what I use for Solar, generally speaking. My Starfire Protocol set. Do I not have it saved? Oh, I do. I forgot. This is something I was using for Master Crota Zen. Also, my ornament set is really bugged currently, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. But also this will be you guys' a chance to see a little bit of Zyoli's Bane. In Zyoli's Bane to have some action. Something that I will be doing. So this damage is relevant outside of this season. Okay, that's just fine. You know what? I gotta go all in. All right. The only thing we're gonna have is um it's solo operative. That's the only buff that I'm going to have. The only one I will have on for this damage. And this one does require Dragon's Breath, which is a Season Pass exotic and is free to play. Catalyst, you need to have the Catalyst done though. TBH, to be honest, you do need to have the Catalyst done. And this time we can actually have Supremacy here. So it'll be Supremacy with Rewind Rounds, Kinetic Tremors. Any sniper, really any special except for Shotgun will do. Shotguns require you to be up close and personal. This is my setup that I'm using. Just slow the video down or pause certain sections. I'll show you the actual. This is not correct, but that's the spread for that. That's the spread for that. New players don't really worry about the build stuff too much. Just worry about the exotic and the armor piece. That's your biggest thing. Now here we need Void. Double. And the rest of this, it should be fine. So this is without any current seasonal mods. This will probably do a lot more damage than my arc setup, but that's perfectly fine. I would kind of be surprised if it does less, to be honest. Now, I will catch y'all once we get to damage. Alright, something that I should probably warn about is fusion nades can kill you. So be careful with sticking that to enemies. That's kind of my only warning. But we are about to get the damage, so kind of waiting for damage to start. He's also further away, so that helps. We're just giving ourselves... Alright, see, pretty good damage, but that's how you want to do. With Dragon's Breath, though, you do want to be a little bit further back, because the rocket can explode and kill you as well. But those are some of your... Well, keep in mind, these are not absolute optimal damage... Oh! The same as Arc. Okay, and I feel like I got more precision shots with... Is Anarchy back? Is Anarchy back? But... Yeah, those are some damage rotations you can do. The solar one is the easiest to do for a free-to-play player. You have access to Zyoli's Bane, and you do have access to Dragon's Breath as a free-to-play player. You have access to Starfire Protocol. But for Supremacy, the thing that I would use instead of it for a free-to-play player is a shotgun. Well, if you can get the fusion rifle from Crucible. This one, Riptide. You can get that, or if you're kind of feeling a little bit frisky. Currently, unfortunately, there's no real snipers you can get for free to play that, in my opinion, are super good. Defensive Yasm is kind of, but for shotguns, Wastelander's really good with Puglist and Vorpal Weapon. That is a role you should probably try to go for. For fusion rifles, there's really no true great free to play options. But yeah, that's sort of how you do damage. Now, this is the last Guardian class that I will be teaching how to do damage for. Hunters, it's super easy. It's literally just super and heavy. That's it for hunters for the most part. There are some exotics that are a little bit more niche on how to use them. Um, there's really only there's basically two setups that I highly recommend with a specific subclass. But let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Anyways, I will catch y'all on the flip side.